Ordinary Council meeting of Darebin City Council on Monday the 19th of October 2020. Nyama, Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Gulyin, Gurunganinu Bik Wenawap Darabandari, Nyariana Nyanga Bik Ban Bat Nyagu, Gagukal Nangit Bambuth Yalingbu Bat Gamanji. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people on whose land Darebin stands. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Councillors, it's fantastic to have everyone here tonight for the final meeting of this 4-year council term. Obviously, I'm sure we'd all like for this final meeting to be in person, but for obvious reasons, it's not. And the health and safety and wellbeing of the community has and always will be the paramount consideration of our council. Council continues to be guided by the government directives and wants to be able to do the right thing for the health of our community during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Act 2020, passed by the Victorian Parliament on the 23rd of April 2020, included changes to the Local Government Act 2020, which allows council to hold virtual meetings and councillors can participate in meetings remotely by electronic means of communication. This meeting is being live streamed via a link on the council website so that the public will be able to view the proceedings of the meeting. The meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on the council website as soon as practicable after the meeting. We are being guided by a ministerial practice note on virtual meetings issued by the Minister for Local Government. Should technical problems be encountered by council, the meeting may be adjourned until these have been resolved to a maximum of 30 minutes. And if we cannot resolve the problem, we will reschedule or defer the items to the next council meeting. In such circumstances, an advice message will be shown on your screen. There are a few housekeeping matters and technical tips for councils, which I will pass on. Please leave your video on and mute your sound unless you wish to speak. If you wish to electronically raise your hand, hover over the participants button in the main video window and then press the small hand symbol in the right hand bottom corner. Please use this if you wish to ask a question or leave the meeting, so I'm aware of this. You can also just raise your actual hand to get my attention. Note, there is no chat facility available during this meeting for councillors or general viewers. Before we commence, I would like to introduce the councillors and senior staff who are with us this evening to confirm that councillors can see and hear each other. So welcome, Councillor Lawrence. Councillor, you're on mute. So I'll get all councillors to unmute themselves now, just so that everyone does that at the same time. Councillor Lawrence.
Sorry, yes, I'm here. Yes.
Great. Councillor McCarthy. Couldn't hear you then, Trent. Sorry.
Yep, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you. Councillor Lasserve.
Good evening, Mayor Rennie.
Good evening, Councillor Amir.
Good evening, Mayor Rennie.
Councillor Greco.
Hi, Mayor Rennie.
Hi, Councillor Messina.
Evening, Mayor Rennie and everybody else.
Councillor Newton.
Good evening, Mayor Rennie.
Councillor Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
And I'd also like to welcome and acknowledge that we've got Sue Wilkinson, the CEO.
Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Jodie Watson, our General Manager of Governance and Engagement, and welcome particularly Jodie. This is her first meeting. You're on mute.
Good evening, Mayor.
Sam Hewitt, General Manager of Operations and Capital.
Morning, good evening, Mayor Rennie.
It's been a long day, Sam. Kerry McGrath, General Manager of Community.
Good evening, Mayor and everyone.
And Rachel Olivier, General Manager of City Sustainability and Strategy.
Good evening, Mayor Rennie.
Good evening. So thanks to you for that. I think it's helpful for members of the public to know who's in the meeting. And there are a number of support staff, and I acknowledge and thank them all who are working behind the scenes to make this meeting go smoothly. So let's get underway. The first is apologies, and there are none. It's great to see all 9 councillors here for our final meeting. Conflicts of interest, councillors, does anyone have a conflict to declare this evening?
No.
Thank you. That brings us to confirmation of the minutes of the last ordinary council meeting, which was held on the 7th of September, and the minutes of the planning committee meeting, which was held on the 12th of October. Is that moved by Councillor Messina and seconded by Councillor Williams? All those in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. Petitions, there are none. And so that brings us to consideration of reports. And the first report is the annual report. We have General Manager Jodie Watson here to answer any questions. So before I call for a motion, I will ask if anyone has any questions in relation to this item. Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, I just had one question. I was just looking at the, I think it was the work cover premiums report that's in there. I'm just trying to find where it actually is in the appendix, but I did notice previously we had lists of the types of injuries in the work cover, but I couldn't see that anywhere. Is there a list of injuries by type?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through the Mayor, there hasn't been a list of injuries by type provided in this year's annual report. If you'd like further information, I can take that on notice.
Thank you, Ms Watson. Councillor, is there any further questions? Councillor Greco.
Thank you, Mary. I just had a question just in relation to some of the financial information. In regards to age and disability services, I noticed that we're spending about $1 million less than what we budgeted for. And I'd just like to know if we can get a little bit of a breakup of one is why we've spent less, and in which particular areas did we spend less in? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Greco. Ms Watson, would you like to answer that or hand over to Ms McGrath for that one?
I'll hand over to Ms McGrath, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Rennie. The expenditure that you see in the report relates specifically to the Age and Disability Department. There is also expenditure for age-friendly related activities and other programs and activities supporting older people within Darebin that appear in other departmental areas, such as libraries, our pools, in some of the work that is overseen by operations and capital. Again, very happy to take it on notice to give you that level of breakdown of those costs that are sitting in other departmental areas.
Thank you, Ms McGrath. Councillor Messina.
You, Mayor Rennie, can I have some clarification based on the statement that Councillor Lawrence made in relation to work cover premium? Can I have the CEO answer that in relation to, does the annual report actually break down the list of injuries, please?
I think Ms Watson answered that, but we'll go to Ms Watson
She didn't
again.
actually. She actually answered the fact that she wasn't, I don't think she did based on what Councillor Lawrence asked. Sorry.
Thanks, Ms Watson. Do you want to clarify?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Messina. Through the Mayor, my understanding was that in this year's annual report, we did not provide a breakdown by injury type. And that was
my question was, has it done so in preceding years, in the years prior?
My understanding is that it has, Councillor Messina.
Okay.
If you like, I can take that on notice to come back to clarify.
Please. Absolutely. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Greco, I think you had your hand up again, and then I'll go to Councillor Lawrence.
Yeah, just another question along the similar lines that I asked before. Just in relation to family, youth and children's services, I noticed that we spent 823,000 less, and I was just wondering why the underspend and in which particular areas was that underspend?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Greco. Ms McGrath.
Again, through you, Mayor Rennie. Councillor, I'll need to take that one on notice to provide those particulars. I can't answer that straight off.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence.
Yeah, just a supplementary, just to be clear, if we could, as councillors, be supplied with the similar data set that was done before, which breaks it down to 12 main areas of injuries, because I think that then informs councillors about going forward what we're managing in terms of manual handling, stress, etc., ergonomics. So yeah, we have been supplied that before, but we haven't in this time. So I think it is important for us to realise we have a lot of indoor staff, we have a lot of blue collar, and when you see the injury tables, it makes more sense.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Ms Watson, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you for the request for information, Councillor Lawrence. Through the Mayor, we can certainly provide that information. I'll take that on notice and provide that to councillors out of session.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further questions? No, there are no further questions. I'll therefore seek a motion. Councillor McCarthy.
Happy to move the recommendation as listed, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor McCarthy. Is there a seconder? Councillor Greco, thank you. Councillor McCarthy, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we are looking to adopt and endorse the annual report for the 2019 to 2020 year. Councillors obviously have a copy of that. It has been advertised, and of course the annual report has also been submitted to the Minister for Local Government as is required. This is a really important item, and it's fitting that it's one of the final items that we are considering in this term of the council, and the final meeting of this term of the council, because it encapsulates what an extraordinary year it has been for both council as an organisation and our community. And you just have to look at the highlights that are included in the officers' report to get a sense of how the organisation as a local council has had to effectively change so much of what it normally would do in response to the pandemic. But even before that, significant and important changes were underway in terms of both supporting some of our most vulnerable, implementing some of our greening initiatives, of course, not only achieving, but in fact exceeding our plans to double solar in Darebin. In fact, we've gone well beyond that, which is a really exciting thing to see. And of course, significant transformation internally in terms of looking at where we can be more efficient, make the best out of the income that council receives from rates and other sources to deliver as much as possible for the community. So the list of outcomes there is significant. I won't go through them other than to point out a couple which I think are the intergenerational outcomes, which I think this term of council can be really proud of. And I'd like to acknowledge the work of both our officers, but also the community members who've agitated, advocated, collaborated, and in some cases have had direct input into making these things happen. Obviously, one of those is the multi-sport stadium. And of course, the architectural design was completed in this previous 12 months. It was a great delight to hear from Christine Johns, who was the resident who organised the petition of 1,000 residents to get council back in 2014 to commit to building the multi-sport stadium, and to have Christine only about a week ago send me a photo of the banner outside the construction site there at John Cain with absolute joy from her perspective to finally see this project happening really makes it all worthwhile, because it's one thing to talk about doing something, it's another thing to get it done. And in this term of council, we've got it done. It's now underway. Another significant thing which I think will bear fruit for years to come is, of course, the design guidelines which council has put in place and drafted. They are significant and important because they guide the quality of design that we see in the city. And I just wanted to finish off by acknowledging the extraordinary achievement of 4 times as many immunisations in our community in this 12-month period. Mind-blowing achievement and a real testament to the work of the officers and the community in keeping ourselves healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Greco.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to say that just to thank all the staff for their contribution in making and the annual report and all the various outcomes and achievements that are in the annual report. It's been a difficult year, as Councillor McCarthy has said, a very particular year, given that the last few months in the financial year, basically 4 or 5 months of that financial year was greatly impacted by the COVID restrictions and the downturn that resulted from that. in terms of some positives in the annual report, I think just like to highlight some of these, sort of go unnoticed. One is the food relief that the council has been able to provide. I think we spent over $300,000 to provide emergency food relief to the most needy in our community. Also, I'd like to highlight the social housing initiative that council has undertaken, where we're partnering up with a community housing provider in order to build on council land. Quite an important initiative, an initiative which I think will set a mark in relation to other councils, and it's a way of council making a positive contribution in that space. Also,
Councillor Greco, something just happened to your sound.
Okay, is that better? Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, it sounds okay now.
Okay, I'd just like to highlight a few concerns. One, in relation to the questions that I raised, in relation to spending $1 million less, in relation to age and disability services. They're our most vulnerable community, and I hope that we'll be able to bring back the amount of expenditure in that space. And finally, if I just could take, because a few seconds were taken up by the, and also in relation to family and youth and children's services, I think we're underspending there, and I'm hoping that the future council will look at that and make sure that we spend the appropriate amount of money for that vulnerable group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. Are there further speakers? Councillor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Rennie. I just wanted to commend this annual report and all the staff for all their work on this. And it's a really nice one to have to come to us at our last meeting, because what I see reading this report is I see an organisation that's really able to respond to challenges, such as the really, really big one that we've faced this year with COVID. And I see a lot of continuous improvement as well. I see more rigorous reporting in the annual report. I see really big capital works and investment in infrastructure, which is so important to us now and going into the future. And what I see too, particularly for our councillors that aren't running again, I think that we can all be very proud of how this is really a leading council in many ways. And I just really echo Councillor Greco's sentiments about really thanking all the staff too for all their incredible work every day, particularly this year.
Thank you, Councillor Newton. Further speakers, Councillor Messina.
I just want to echo the words that my fellow councillors have said, and I'm pretty proud of this progressive council. We've, over the 4 years, we've made some changes, not only in this particular local landscape, but we've also activated and advocacy roles in other areas. I want to focus on 4 key elements. The first one is I want to also thank the staff and the officers and the councillors that have brought this together into fruition. We are travelling on uncharted waters, and I think Darebin has become a leader in terms of offering a $12 million recovery package to our residents and our business owners. And I think we failed to, or the community's failed to recognise or acknowledge how much support that actually is, number one. Number two, we were the first to implement the extension of the footpath trade, the first to talk about pop-up bicycle trades. And also I want to focus on the development and how, and Councillor McCarthy mentioned that in terms of how far we've come. It was one of the issues when we first came into this particular council term, and we've extended that. So I want to say thank you to everybody who came on board and that we're actually progressing further. Aged care friendly Darebin. I'm so proud of that particular policy. When many councils have turned their back on their aged care, this council did not. So I want to say thank you for everybody who has helped with that particular strategy. Then I want to focus on waste. This council, and I'm just reading this particular highlight, and when we came together 4 years ago, we said we wanted to reduce waste by 1 kilo per person. We've actually exceeded that by six times that amount. So this particular term, we've reduced the amount of waste per person by up to 7 kilos. Now that might mean nothing to somebody who's out there in the community, but what that actually is a saving on cost factors, because every ton of waste that we sent out to landfill it equates to $62 a ton. That in the future will be $126 a ton. So a reduction of waste is also a reduction of, I'm just going to finish off, a reduction of a financial and economical and also social impact. So thank you everybody, and good luck whoever comes into fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Messina. Further speakers, Councillor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Lawrence, you just muted yourself.
Computers bouncing on computers. Yes, I note the effort put in by the staff to report back on this annual report, which reports the council performance as per the council plan that was adopted under this council. So thanks for that work. There's a few little bits and pieces, you know, I've spent a couple of hours going over it today, missing. They're minor things about, you know, committees not there or whatever, minor things. But I think one of the, you know, and obviously we've got a lot of items here on target, on track, and then there's a few that have fallen off track. So there's something that, you know, the new council can pick up and look at, you know, what those things are, those strengths and weaknesses. But one of the things that really strikes me, and it was raised with Councillor Greco, is how we've lost contact with and service to segments like aged, youth, etc., and maternal health. And really what that is perhaps not something that's fair to compare this year to last year, because those disruptions are major and they are COVID related. And the fact that the world has been turned upside down since March. And so these services have not been able to be accessed, or various things have happened. So I suppose when the new council comes in, one of the things we'll be looked at in terms of inter-budget or intergenerational justice is how we reconnect to those people who dropped off on services, and whether there's you know, new services and new service design we should look at to ensure that we then maintain our spending you know, in those areas of age where we have commitments, in those areas of maternal health and the youth areas. So I think this is a disrupted budget, but it's disrupted by COVID, like everything is.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Further speakers? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I just want to follow on from what other councillors have also mentioned, that even though that we've done some great work in this area, so just to highlight a few things, so we've 28.22 million in capital works, 11.47 environmental and amenities, 9.37 in waste collection and sweeping, 8.87 culture and leisure, 8.40 in aged care services, which is down, but hopefully that will rise again. So in parks, 8.15 million for parks and gardens, and in that we've planted an extra 6,700 trees. Also, I guess, because we are in COVID at the moment, we've had to rejig and do a lot of different things that we've never done before, including supporting our community and local businesses with the COVID as part of the business resilience and recovery package. Hopefully in the coming year that, or when the new council comes on board, that they can actually do more to help our businesses and obviously our most vulnerable in our community. The great news about the immunisation, especially to the Indigenous backgrounds. I think that's great, the amount of people that were actually doing immunisation. So that there's some benefits, and obviously there's some downfalls, but this is a budget, and this report is different to any other that we've had in the past. So let's hope that we can get back on track, and we can kick COVID, and we can start looking forward and planning in a different direction.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Are there any further speakers? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor Rennie. As has been mentioned by the other councillors, we have an interesting annual report with leading into the pandemic, and then the challenging first wave, and then the brief optimistic stage before the financial year ended. So I am particularly proud of the $11.8 million COVID support package for residents and businesses. And I was also really proud to see just how many projects, big projects, were able to be started or delivered in this time. And to name one, the Beavers Road Bridge, which I love so much. I was there this morning, and it's even better than I hoped it would be. And none of this being at the expense of the business as usual services, which, as has been mentioned in many cases, was increasing and expanding. Vaccinations has been mentioned, more library resources than ever. as well as some of the big projects planning for the future around planning for Preston Central, the level crossing removal, NARC, the MSS, planning for kindergartens, the design guidelines, to name a few. And of course, all the new services that staff did such an amazing job to pivot to be able to deliver online. Examples being the Backyard Harvest Festival, the gym classes, libraries online, and I know how valuable and important that has been for residents. And also been exciting to see some of the projects that we started early in the council term now continuing to have impact. The declaration of the climate emergency continuing to spread around the world, and the Solar Savers program adding more and more solar panels to people's roofs. And like others, I would also like to say thank you so much to every single officer in the organisation all the way through for all of this very, very hard work in what has been a challenging year, especially people with little kids at home. Everyone's done such an amazing job, and I feel so proud to have been able to work with this organisation and the wonderful people in it over the last 4 years.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers? Oh, Councillor Lissett.
Thank you, Mayor Rennie. I wasn't going to speak, but I feel like I guess this is a good opportunity for me. I think a lot has been said in terms of what's happened over the last 4 years, and in particular what's happened in the last year. And I just wanted to chip in and echo the thanks, particularly to our officers in terms of the work that they've put in bringing our council plan to life. And you know, because we're at the end of our term, we're seeing a lot of those big projects come to fruition, which a lot of councillors have spoken about. So I won't go over that ground, but I do want to say that it has been a very big year for everybody, and it continues the last year, but it continues into this year. And I think in terms of the way that the organisation rolled up its sleeves, led by the CEO, in, I guess, really being flexible and adaptable to that changing situation, and supporting our community through that support package, I guess is really reflective of the type of organisation that Darebin has transformed into, in terms of not only its capability, but adaptability and flexibility, which is incredible. And I just wanted to, I guess, particularly thank the officers for their work each and every day. I know many of them don't get weekends, particularly over the hard days of the pandemic, and hopefully that they're getting some time now. And I guess I just wanted to say the things that I'm particularly proud of that we're, I guess, seeing again coming to fruition in this last year is the response to the climate emergency. Solar Savers is our flagship program and is being replicated across local government everywhere at the moment. But we really, I guess, put our resources behind it and have helped so many different households and businesses put solar panels on their roof and reduce their living costs. And also to talk about the local government PPA, which is actually going to be hopefully wrapped up at the end of this year, but a lot of the work happened last financial year. And we'll see 47 councils transform their electricity purchasing, this is my last sentence, to 100% renewable energy. Now, if that's not real action on climate change, I don't know what is, and I'm incredibly proud of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Surf. Now that's everyone, so I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and I would like to echo your words of thanks to the staff across the organisation who, in what would have to be, I think, the most difficult year that any of us can probably remember, have continued to deliver for our community. We'll now move to item 6.2 on the agenda, which is the declaration of the special charge. Ms. Olivia is here to answer any questions in relation to this with Ms. Petrie. Are there any questions? No, in that case, I'll move straight to asking for a motion. Councillor McCarthy, thank you. That's the recommendation, Councillor McCarthy, I'm assuming? Yes, and that's seconded by Councillor Lawrence. Thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. The Councillor Surf just spoke in the previous item about the importance of the Solar Saver program to Darebin being one of our flagship programs. And as councillors would have seen in the annual report as well, we did in fact exceed our target of doubling solar in Darebin in this term, which is not an easy thing to do when you consider the fact that you need to have a program that can actually respond to the varied needs of our community, and not just residents, not just low-income residents, which is what this program was designed for originally, and particularly pensioners, but also businesses as well and other organisations. So Solar Savers has continued. It has continued despite the fact that council has had a reduction in income. It's just continued despite the fact that we're in a pandemic. And of course, we have the declaration processes in these reports. And I think it's significant that despite the fact that we're in a pandemic, we are still going through this process and still supporting people to get solar on their roof. So I'm really pleased that we are in this space. And I would just echo Councillor Lasserf's sentiments about the importance of both this program, but also our larger work with the PPA. This evening, though, we are effectively doing what we often have to do now, which is have a special charge scheme for a particular group of residents. This batch in particular includes 27 installations, which will add 135 kilowatts of solar to Darebin. This is obviously, as councillors would be aware, we have both the batches of Solar Savers and also the Solar Saver bulk buy as well. And in speaking with our officers, it's fascinating and really, I think, really exciting that we've continued to see demand for solar, despite the fact that we've focused this year's program on low-income households and delivered a bulk buy option for other residents who can afford to self-finance, at least in the interim. Just in relation to this particular batch, I would just say congratulations to those residents who are part of it. Obviously, one of the things that we also know with Solar Saver, with not just the standard program, but also the bulk buy, is that when people are doing it tough, it's these sorts of programs that actually make sure that they keep money in their pocket, but they also have the added benefit of making a big difference. And of course, councillors can see there in the report the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, which has happened, which all contributes to our overall target of reducing greenhouse gases in Darebin across the board. So I just wanted to say thank you to the officers again for their work in continuing this program despite the conditions. They do an extraordinary job. And in particular, I just wanted to acknowledge Councillor Lasserf and Councillor Amir, who aren't standing again in this term, but have both been fantastic champions for this program from the very moment they entered council and even before that. So I just wanted to thank you both for your support for this program in particular.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor Rennie. Yes, I'd like to thank the officers for completing this long-standing program, Solar Savers, which really brings renewable energy to people who are on low and fixed incomes in this city. And it's a key and core program of this council and previous councils. Of course, hopefully going forward, you know, this program is unique in that it creates an online stream of income as the instalments come back in from the participants and pay for the capital injection that we basically bankroll for a short time. So this is something, an area, obviously this one's going to pensioners and people on receiving pensions, but the solar scheme system in Darebin, we really should be looking at expanding to other people, wage earners and small business, because it is a area where we can get a stream of return on our investment, and it's also an area where we can stimulate the economy and decrease our contributions to greenhouse gases. So while we have started Solar Savers almost as a, we might call it, you know, aimed at lower incomes, I think there's a lot of ways to expand on this, especially in the pandemic, to make it broader for more people and inject more money into our economy. So hopefully the new council looks at making this bigger, broader and better.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Are there any further speakers? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to item 6.3, proposed road declaration at the rear of 137 to 143 Station Street, 100 to 104 Arthur Street. Ms Watson is here to answer any questions. Councillors, are there any questions before we begin debate on this item? No, there appear to be no questions. Thank you, Ms Watson. Councillors, does anyone have a motion? Councillor McCarthy, thank you. I'll take that as the officer recommendation that you're moving. Is there a second for that? Councillor Lasser. Thank you, Councillor McCarthy.
Thanks, Mayor. This is obviously a statutory item. It's not an item that is of any great controversy, but does require council to go through this process, which of course is to notify both under the Act and also more generally to empower the CEO to undertake the administrative processes in relation to this particular item. When we do consider a proposed road declaration, we obviously need to go through those legal processes, and this takes us down that path. It's all in the report, as councillors can see. Pretty straightforward. This has been prompted by an inquiry from the owner of 104 Arthur Street, Fairfield, and of course there's obviously both a consultation process and also a statutory process in relation to this item. So happy to move the recommendations listed.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Lasser.
I've got nothing further to add.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? I'll therefore put that to the vote. All those in favour? And against? Councillor Greco, I'm not sure if you meant to abstain, but I didn't see you vote.
Looks like he's frozen.
It does look like Councillor Greco's frozen now that I look at him.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Favour.
Voted in favour. Thank you.
I just heard him. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Councillors Lawrence, McCarthy, Greco, Messina, Amir, Lasser, Williams and Newton voting in favour and Councillor Rennie voting against. That brings us to the next item, which is item 6.4. It's a property acquisition and disposal report. Are there any questions of? No. Is there a motion? Councillor Amir, thank you. Are you moving the officer recommendation?
Yes, happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Messina. Right. Thank you, Councillor Amir. Over to you.
Sorry, my screen's gone a bit strange. Thanks, Mayor Rennie. Again, this is a statutory matter, hopefully to get some of these underway so that the relevant parties are not waiting too long during the caretaker and election period. So this report, usually these would be done separately, but recently we've been grouping them together. In this case, there are 5 items, being the discontinuance of a right-of-way in Preston, commencing the statutory process for the proposed sale of a parcel of land in Preston, and another one in Reservoir, yes, in Reservoir, and then to commence statutory procedures for proposed sale of land from a discontinued right-of-way, also in Reservoir. So the commencement of statutory process is not the end of the road. Not intended, but I'm glad it was there. This is to then make contact in consultation with all the related parties on the adjoining land and surrounding properties to see who may be interested in purchasing the land as per our usual processes. So I'm happy for these processes to be commenced.
Thank you, Councillor Amir. Councillor Messina.
Nothing further, so eloquently put by Councillor Amir, and it's as she said, it's a statutory process. So happy just to second the item based on what we have in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Messina. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Lawrence.
Sorry, just to clarify in regards to the Hughes Parade one, I just want to double check before I vote. With that parcel of land, which is similar to the other one in Reservoir, which is like a little rectangle, that subdivision's going down the middle, so it won't disrupt the swimming pool in the Hughes Parade property. Is that correct?
Councillor Lawrence, the time for questions was before debate, but given that's a simple question, I will just ask Ms. Watson if she's in position to comment.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lawrence. Mayor Rennie, if I can refer to Matthew Gould, he's available to provide technical response to that.
Thank you. Mr. Gould, if you could switch your camera on and take yourself off mute.
Just to assist,
Hello,
I'm
councillors.
asking the impact on 72 Hughes Parade. It's just hard to read some of the diagrams.
Yes, the 72 Hughes Parade are purchasing the former roadland. It will not affect their swimming pool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gould, for that answer.
You're welcome.
Councillors, would anyone else like to contribute to the debate? No, I'll therefore put that to the vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That actually brings us to the end of the report. So item 7 is consideration of responses to petitions, and there are none. Urgent business, there is none. Reports of standing committees, there are none. And so we have the summary of meetings, with item 10.1 being the summary of advisory committee meetings. Can I have, I don't think we probably need questions unless someone has a question sing out, but the recommendation has come up on the screen that they be noted and incorporated into the minutes. So that's moved by Councillor, Williams, I think, and seconded by Councillor Greco. All those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. And
Councillor Greco was frozen again there. I didn't see him vote.
Oh no, he moved then. I think it's okay. Councillor Greco, did you vote?
Hey guys, I'm still alive and I voted.
Great, thank you. That was in favour, I think. So I'm just confirming that was carried unanimously. So that brings us to item 11, report by Mayor and councillors. That's moved by Councillor Messina and seconded by Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Item 12 on the agenda is consideration of reports considered confidential. There are none. So that brings us to the close of, yes, Councillor McCarthy.
Mayor, just before you close the meeting, I'd just like to move a suspension of standing orders just to allow councillors to make some final comments before we finish our meeting.
Councillor McCarthy, I did check from a governance point of view, and given that we are in caretaker period, I believe that's not appropriate. So with that advice that I've received in mind, do you?
In that case, I'll offer my congratulations to the outgoing councillors who aren't contesting in another way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that that's difficult, and I have suggested to the CEO perhaps in a future year that we might do something such as that at the meeting prior to entering into caretaker period. What I would like to say is that we've all been on a journey together for 4 years. We started this journey together 4 years ago, and it's terrific that 9 of us, unlike some other councils who have shed some councillors along the way, here we all are in the final meeting, and I thank everybody for their hard work and commitment over the last 4 years, and I particularly thank the staff. For those who are recontesting the election, I wish you all the very best of luck, and for Councillor Amir and Councillor Surf who are not recontesting, very best wishes with your future endeavours as well. So councillors, I do hope that post-COVID we have an opportunity to celebrate and get together in other ways. I know that the community will be watching with interest what happens post the election. And, you know, I do hope that we take the time ourselves, recognising that 4 years is a long time to spend together, and it's been quite a journey and an amazing ride. So thank you, and particularly thank you to the staff who have taken us on this journey and worked so hard for our community over the past 4 years. So on that note, I will close the meeting and wish everyone all the very best, unless the CEO would like to say anything. No? All good. So that's it. And to members of the community who have joined us to watch this final meeting of this 4-year council term, thank you. Some of us will be back, and we hope that you'll join again for our first meeting whenever that is scheduled a bit later in the year. So good evening, everyone, and goodbye.